will turn it over to you, I think.
Okay, I'll have our panelists come on up, take your seat. Now, I understand the last time that police officers were here, we had those director chairs, and they're packing, so they can't fit in those, so we have the wider chairs here for them today, but yours. As Virginia said, my name is Vince Burgess. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you already, I hope to do so in the coming weeks. I really appreciate you guys being here today. We had a slight change, and you were Officer Salinas, and now you're Officer Walters. And then Officer Salinas is over here. So I'll just ask you to briefly introduce yourselves and what you do.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Officer Walters. I'm with the Georgetown Police Department. I've been there about 13 years, and I've had about 1 million jobs before that, military, fire, EMS. But I'm just here to answer all of your law enforcement-related questions.
Good morning. My name is Anthony Triola. I serve the Wilco Office of Emergency Management as an emergency management specialist. I've been in the job for just under 2 months, but prior to this, I was in the American Red Cross for 2.5 years as a disaster program manager.
Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Good morning, Stephanie Featherstone. I'm a local State Farm insurance agent. I've been here since 2008. Prior to that, I was a school teacher, which addresses disasters on a regular basis. So I felt it was a fantastic transition of emergency preparedness and, of course, insurance as well. Remember, a year too early beats a day too late. I'm Stephanie.
All right. Thank you so much. So let's just start right out. What are the most common types of emergencies that seniors should be prepared for in our area?
I'll start. So I would say mostly weather-related. I mean, we do get into financial emergencies. We have a lot of fraud, things like that going on, but weather-related emergencies probably affect us the most on a day-to-day basis. I just got a text this morning telling me I violated a toll road, and that was on my government phone, so I'm pretty sure I didn't. But we tell everybody just to be prepared, and my partner here from Williamson County can tell you a lot more about weather emergencies, how to know about them, how to prepare for them. But we tell everybody to just take a look at everything in your house, make sure everything is documented, have a to-go kit, and you can always call the police department. Anytime there's any kind of emergency, we spin up our emergency operations center, and we work very closely with Williamson County, who also has their own emergency operations.
I'd like to piggyback on that by saying that, yes, absolutely, the weather drives a lot of disasters, and we have to be prepared for them. When I was with the Red Cross, 90% of the disasters or the emergencies that we respond to, it would surprise you, home fires, home and apartment fires. So we would come up with these little sayings: keep an eye on what you fry, don't leave candles unattended. So really, home fires are the #1 disaster that the American Red Cross goes out on. For us here in Williamson County, we're always looking at the weather, always taking abreast of what's coming into our area. And as we look at the summer, when it's hot and dry, wildfires become a particular concern. So.
And then I would throw in, which is hard to believe in many cases, unless you've actually walked through this disaster, and that's water. And so if you're looking at it in terms of sudden and accidental water, you come home and it looks like a flood everywhere, you don't know what to do next, where to turn it off, and or if it's behind a drywall, which it might be over time that damage has happened. Both of those are catastrophic losses in terms of a household and what you should do and how you should prepare for that. I would also end as a pro tip, especially in today's time, 21st century. You know, back in the day, we'd tell you to write things down and kind of inventory it out. Just use your cell phone. Just go around every single room and just do a quick chronicle of all of your stuff. Because let me just share, emotion and logic don't dwell in the same space. And so when you are in the process of being in an emergency, you're going to need some of that logic too. And so having that opportunity to use your phone and just have it tucked away is super helpful in those spaces.
Which is a great segue to my next question, Stephanie. And anyone on the panel can answer this. What should seniors know about emergency alerts and staying informed if they don't use a smartphone or the internet regularly?
Okay, so double-edged sword. The internet, smartphones, probably the best way that we can get a message across to all of you that something's coming. Now, another way, and one that I highly encourage, is I'm looking at a room of almost 80 sensors. You all can either see or hear that something's coming, and you all live in communities. Let's be communal. Let's talk to each other. Let's set up community groups. We here at Williamson County OEM, Office of Emergency Management, have communities organized to respond to disaster, basically. And all of you could join us to do exactly that. So you don't have to be tied to your cell phone. You can work with us and get the word out to your neighbors. And then afterwards, post-disaster, you can go around and check on each other. Being communal is the best way if you don't want to rely on the internet or your cell phone.
That's so good. Yes, officer.
We do have Georgetown is part of a program, Smart 911. You can go to smart911, I believe it's .com, and you can enter in a whole bunch of information. Now, we're not Big Brother, this can only be seen if we pull up your address because you've made an emergency phone call. But you can tell us that you have pets, you have somebody with special needs, somebody that may be, in a wheelchair that cannot get out safely. That helps us have more information. The Texas Warn system, Central Texas Warn, WARN, is another way you sign up through that service, and they can send you text messages. I think I even have phone calls that come in. It'll call me from a 512 number, and it says there's a weather emergency in your area or something going on. And then we also have the NOAA radios, the emergency radios. You can get them pretty much anywhere. Red Cross has them. You turn on that radio, and then even if you don't have a cell phone or a TV or something like that, you can find out pretty much about any of those type events.
Great, thank you. So two quick things. Encourage you to take notes on your paper there, and then they'll also be available after. So make sure and we'll have time for questions at the end. So if they go through some things pretty quickly, we can also revisit that at the end. So Stephanie, this next question is for you, or Anthony or Officer Walters, but Stephanie, this is an insurance question. So what are some gaps in coverage that people might not realize until it's too late?
Oh my, it's one of my most favorite questions. Not the late part, but the conversation part. I will definitely say one of the gaps is that what's going on behind the drywall coverage. That's also known as continuous or leakage. It's not NOT part of your normal homeowner's policy. You have to purchase that back into your coverage. That's a big one. The other one I would say that we see as gaps in your coverage is really the overall dwelling amount of your home. Oftentimes, when you first purchased your house, you decided what that insurance amount was going to be, and every year it may see a little creep up. It's kind of an inflation guard that's kind of built behind that to try to keep pace with the cost of construction and materials. But you all can all attest over the past several years, it's been like an EKG chart. And as when you think about it in terms of the economy, the cost of construction and labor and materials, all of that is still on the rise. So you could very well have your home insured here, and the costs are doing this, and you have a gap in between, in the event you were to experience a loss, if you would be able to rebuild your house. So it is super important that if you're not having a visit with your insurance carrier on an annual basis, or at least every other year, just to make sure that you are insured to value. And I'll land on this other point. What the tax appraisal says, what you could sell your house for, and then what the replacement costs for your home, those are like 3 Oprah Winfrey shows, totally different. So don't count on your homeowner's insurance matching what the tax appraisal says, or don't count on your homeowner's insurance matching what you think you could sell your home for. Replacing your house is its own animal, and that's based off the cost of construction, materials, labor. If all of that's still going like this, guess what's going to happen? When you are in the loss, it's too late. And what I share with our clients all the time, if you are underinsured for your dwelling, you have to decide which room don't you want. Because we're not going to extend the coverage just because you were underinsured. So now you're having to make a different decision. What room don't I want? What bathroom don't I want? I had wood floors and now I have to go back in with vinyl. So these are the reasons why having that opportunity to talk about that. That's a huge area that we see quite often, is the gap in your dwelling.
So let me clarify something. So behind the wall coverage, let's say I've got a pinhole in a water pipe and it's just been leaking for a long time. I don't know it. And then one day I see mold, but it's been going on for months. In a traditional plan, that would not be covered.
That's right. That would be one of the that would be one of the questions. I get a little excited about these conversations. I'm a little impassioned about this. That would be one of the coverages that I would absolutely make sure, like even when you leave today, go and call your insurance carrier and ask them, do I have leak or continuous water coverage? Leak or continuous water coverage? That's the question. Because that is absolutely correct, that you may not know it. I mean, it could be weeks, months, sometimes even years until you start seeing the ensuing damage. Do you realize what's happening behind the wall? And water travels to its lowest point, right? So as it's traveling, it's going far from where it actually started. So that would be one of the big areas.
Now, is it always been this way? Or is this something a more recent sort of thing?
I've started in 2008, and it's been since 2008.
Okay.
So when I started in 2008, that coverage, that behind the wall leakage, continuous drip coverage, that was pulled out of the normal homeowner's policy. So that's been since 2008 for me, and it's pretty common across the board. I'm not just speaking to State Farm specific. It's an industry specific coverage that often you have to buy back in or to make sure you have it. So.
Okay, Anthony?
I'm so glad that we have Stephanie on this panel, because what you're bringing up, so many times we would go out on fires, and although the Red Cross we're separate from insurance, we would always ask, well, have you contacted your insurance company? And you can see the body just kind of sag, and when they say, well, no, I don't have insurance. And, for the Red Cross, then you start thinking of, well, how do we get immediate assistance to this person so they're not out in the cold? So I'm so glad that we've got you on the panel today. And as far as the leaks, Vince, you mentioned mold. Nothing worse for your health than mold building up in your house. So I think the things that are being brought up go beyond like immediate disasters and more long-term, so.
Great,
good.
Thank you. And Stephanie, I'm going to give you a call later about my health, my home insurance, and my health insurance if you sell it. So, let's talk about emergency plan. So how important is an emergency plan, and how do you go about creating one? First question. And how can seniors who live alone create a reliable emergency communication plan? And I can repeat those if you need me to. So how important is a plan? How do you go about create one? Let's take that first part.
Okay. So having a plan is that first step. but a plan is only as good as the number of times that you practice it. So yes, come up with a plan, then on a lazy Saturday, practice the plan. Where are you going to go if there's a house fire in your home? Who are you going to call? What are you going to take with you? Practice that, and that way you can amend the plan. If you get out to the vehicle, you pull the vehicle out of your garage, and you go off to the coffee shop, and you go, well, did we remember this, this, and this? Oh, we forgot, my pills, my prescriptions. Add that to the list, then practice that. Plans are great, and there's tons of places that we can point you to online, FEMA, Texas Division of Emergency Management, even our website, to start to build the plan, but please, please, practice the plan.
In my house, near the refrigerator, we have a cabinet that we put a lock onto. We keep all our prescriptions in that cabinet. We keep our to-go bag. The to-go bag has water because you can go days and days. You may not want to go days without food, but you can. But water, you can't go very long at all. So we have our emergency water in there. It's in the aluminum can, so it lasts a lot longer. We have our NOAA radio, our emergency radio. We have flashlights. We have hard granola bars or nutrition bars that also last a long time. We do have a can opener. I don't know who provided that today. Awesome. Can opener, and we have some cans of things that also stay preserved. And then we also have a list near that cabinet on the fridge that has all of our emergency contact information, doctor, family, next of kin, and then we also tell our neighbors, pretty much everything. Our neighbors have the code to our door. We have a code to their door. It does help us out on the fire side, EMS side, and police side if you have a keypad. A Knox box is great, but it can only be accessed by the fire department. A keypad, if you give the police department the code on your keypad, then if you need any assistance or anything, we don't have to damage your door. But in my family, we have that all in one area. We have a little label on the cabinet that lets everybody know. And if we have to go in an emergency, we just take all the medication, dump it into the bag, we grab the bag, and we just go straight out the door. We also have a fireproof document holder. It looks just like a regular envelope. We have another big one that looks like a briefcase, and it's fire resistant up to, I think it's over 1,000 degrees, something ridiculous. And we have all our important documents in that section, and that's also always in our to-go bag. So
those who may not be familiar with the Knox box, tell us about that.
So the Knox box, you'll see them usually outside of businesses. They're small little boxes, about yay big, and they have a key, and only the fire department has that key, and they're serialized. They're like us with our traffic boxes. The firefighter can't take them home. They can't use them for any other purpose. It stays on the fire engines and the ambulances. They can open up that box, and inside that box, you can place things like the code or written down, you can write down the code to your door, or you can have a key to your front door or something like that. And that, again, we don't like breaking down doors. Sometimes it's just a lift assist or something very simple, and, we're damaging, hundreds, if not $1,000 worth of a door to get in. It just helps us gain access without damaging. Also on the police side, you can call the police department or go by our records division, and you can have, I'm a big believer in coded doors because my wife loses keys like crazy. We had a 35 millimeter, everybody here probably remembers film. They don't use that anymore, but we have a canister, has a key. We buried it somewhere, around our house. And notoriously, my wife would forget her key or lose her key. She'd go get the emergency key. She would not replace the emergency key. And then a month later, I forgot the emergency key and I've already used it.
But did you come home to holes all in your yard, or did she know right where that key?
No, she lost the emergency key, so she knew she had nothing left. So we went ahead and put a keypad little electronic keypad on our door, and we also got that from my mom who lives in Sun City, so we can always access. And we gave that number to the police department so they can also access our home during an emergency.
Good, thank you. So the second part of that was in terms of seniors living alone, how to create a reliable emergency communication plan too. So there's the nuts and bolts of what you need, but there's a communication piece to that. So what are some ideas and suggestions for that?
They touched on it earlier. Your neighbors are probably the best. You may not love your neighbors, but there's somebody somewhere on your street I'm sure you get along with. Mine is right across the street, and they have most of our information. They know who to contact because we've already talked to them about that. If there's an emergency, we know who to contact for them and vice versa. We do rely on our phones a lot. But again, we do have that emergency list near our door. So we have that contact. If I'm unconscious and they don't know who to call, and for some reason my neighbor's out and they can't help, the fire department can look at that emergency contact list on a refrigerator. Our fire department gives out those little panels, and it has a magnet so you can stick it to a fridge. And that's a really good way as well. We do sometimes suggest, if you have a lot of family in the area that are local, the FRS radios. They're really inexpensive radios, multiple frequencies. Sometimes I actually worked at the Pentagon on 9/11. I slept in, I was volunteering at a fire department, so believe it or not, I was not at work on 9/11. I was at the fire department, but I still responded to work. So when I told them I called out sick, they saw me later. Oops. But there was no cell phone communication. I mean, it's almost like Two-Step comes into town and there's 40,000 people. There's no cell phone communication because there's too many people trying to use their cell phones. So I don't even know if we have Nextel click to talk anymore.
I haven't heard
Those
of
used to
in a
be
while.
great because
Yeah.
they break through the system. They work a little different. But if you don't have those, they have the little radios. And sometimes at least you can get somewhere safe and send out an email and just email your loved ones. But you would have to know their email. So again, you can even grab that emergency contact list that you wrote everything down on. Have some next of kin, have some neighbors, have some people that live out of state away from that disaster area, and you can notify them yourself.
Great, thank you. Any other suggestions or ideas in terms of those living alone? Yeah.
Can't really add anything more than what's been discussed. There's state programs like STEER, where if you have mobility issues, you can sign up with STEER and you go into a database so that they know if there's a need to evacuate, they will actually contact you. And what's interesting about the STEER program is it gets funneled down to us. So it might be my voice on the line saying, can we come help you? Or it may go to the municipality. So here in Georgetown, you have an amazing emergency services director. Her name is Christy Rogers. Christy is one of the best in the state. So we're very lucky here in Georgetown. But you can go to Cedar Park. John Cummins is outstanding. Or down in Round Rock, Cherie Smith. So I think for Williamson County, we have some of the most talented and the most highly trained emergency managers at the municipal level and of course at the county level. So, so we will be reaching out. You just need to do the sign up for it, and then we'll be in touch.
Thank you. So the STEER program that Anthony mentioned, that is in your packet on one of the sides of your sheets. There's more information on that specific program, so make sure you can check that out. So Stephanie, let's come back to you. So we've sort of touched on this a little bit, but what types of insurance coverage should seniors review and update to ensure they're protected in the event of an emergency?
I'm going to go back to the homeowners. I think that's super critical. We could talk about the auto policy, but really and truly, it's that home that will be significantly disrupted. And so making sure that you are just have that wraparound coverage in all of those capacities will be super important. And that's something that you really need to have a conversation with. I was just talking to a dear friend and also one of you all's educational partners, and we were just having the conversation about the difference between transactional insurance, which oftentimes insurance kind of gets bucketed into that. Like, I know I have to have it, I want it least expensive, I don't want to have to think about it, check the box, move on, until you need it. And so by that time, it's too late. And I often say it's the difference between an aggravation and a devastation. And that homeowners insurance policies across the board are expensive. I mean, just call it what it is. They're expensive. But your home is too. And so when you think about a devastation, you have the possibility of losing it all in one horrible storm. And that's what your insurance is designed to do. It's not looking at it in terms of the maintenance of your home. It's the devastation of your home. And so when you start thinking about your deductibles and you're seeing that they're 1%, but they're 1% of a $500,000 home, or it's 1% of an $800,000 home, and you're like, that's $8,000 before you guys are going to jump in and help me. That's ridiculous. Well, it's an $800,000 home that, in the big scheme of things, your insurance carrier is taking on 99%, you're taking on 1%. I can take those odds to Vegas any day if that was the case, right? So that's really what, when we talk about reframing the thought process around your insurance, is really move from a transactional mindset to a value-based mindset. And when you start going through those coverages and really having a full understanding of what you have, take it off of autopilot and just really make it part of that important item. And I share, the difference between important and urgent. Like, by the time it's urgent, it's too late. So you want to make it an important conversation around that. But back to that, like, specific coverage, that I think that's the big one, is that behind the drywall, that's a killer. And then flood. I mean, we don't typically talk about flood because many of our areas are not necessarily in a flood plain, although all of that's being restructured, by the way. The terrain is changing. I mean, the more we keep turning dirt, the more, and we have these feast or famine rains, all you can do is look in your backyard and you can determine, okay, well, 10 years ago, the rain would be a feast or famine rain, and we were fine. The backyard was great. And now all of a sudden you start looking back there and like, ooh, that water is really rising. Now it might subside, and typically it does. The drainage is good, but the rise of that water that's coming up because we are in this area of growth, those are opportunities for you to give some consideration to maybe having a separate flood policy. And you will know it because you can look out your back door when we have 5 and 6, well, we haven't had that in a while, but when we have those huge rains for 3 and 4 days, and then you look in your backyard and you're like, well, that used to be a puddle and now it looks like a pool, that's probably a clear sign that you might want to start thinking about a flood policy, because flood is not, N-O-T, not covered in your homeowner's policy. Not covered. And so because we didn't have the rain before, and then we got all the rain at one time, and we're like, well, it never happened before, so can you just cover me this one time? That's not how it works. So a flood policy is probably, that's not required. You're probably looking at about $500 annually to make sure that you have that peace of mind of having that. But that would be the other one that I would say. And notice that I'm spending a lot of time on water, because we know wind, we know hail, we know wildfires, we know those things, but water is disastrous as well. Disastrous. And so if you're not prepared from an emergency perspective in that light, it can also be a game changer for your household.
Quick question. So let's go back to deductible. How would you advise folks in terms of choosing the right deductible?
Excellent question. You probably won't have many choices, so that makes it super easy. Most companies are at 1%, starting at 1%. And we are very blessed that Central Texas and most areas are still at 1%. Most of the rest of Texas has moved to like a 2% for homeowners. And that's the starting deductible as it relates to weather. So again, you go back to a $500,000 home, 1% is $5,000, 2% is $10,000. Talking about emergency, you might want to make sure you have that in savings, because before your insurance company is going to jump in, you're responsible for that deductible, or that's the part that's going to be removed from your overall payment. And so, yeah, I think in general, you're probably looking at a standard at 1%. There's not a lot of negotiations around that, at least on the weather side.
But in terms of if somebody opted for a 2 or 3%, would they see a significant decrease in
terms
their...
of, yeah, that's a hard call. You will see a decrease. I'm not sure to what degree, and I always say, is the juice worth the squeeze on the decrease? So ask for it, get the numbers, but then you just have to decide, is the juice worth the squeeze on the savings for me having to take on triple the amount?
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So are there any free or low-cost resources available to seniors to help them prepare, like checklists, community programs, kits? I think they're looking at you, Anthony.
Okay. So online at FEMA.gov, probably the best place for you to go. Tons of information, lots of checklists. Some of them that you can, it's a PDF that's fillable, so you just fill it out, print it, have with you. Maybe give a copy to a neighbor or to children. As far as at our table, if you take away only one thing, please take our trifold. On the very back is our phone number and our email address. Please email anytime. I live for this kind of interaction. We've got so much information that we can provide you. So don't hesitate, please, to reach out.
And worst comes to worst, we also have our own emergency management, and if they get really busy or something like that, or you live within the city limits, feel free to give us a call. Christy Rogers she is wonderful, but we can also help with any of that emergency preparedness. And being Georgetown, we kind of do a little bit of a concierge policing. Feel free to call us. A lot of people don't call us because they feel like they're going to bother us. Trust me, we get enough of those, like 911 pocket dials and people calling because they have maybe a splinter in their finger. They're not really sure. It's fine. We'd rather get a phone call than not get a phone call. If you think it's a scam, if you want to know more about emergency preparedness, if you just want to talk to an officer, feel free, give us a call. Our phone number with community engagement is 512-930, I'm going to get this wrong, 2747. I'm going to double check that before we leave. But the emergency number for Georgetown Police is 930-3510. 3510, and that's the non-emergency number for police, fire, EMS. So you're not tying up our lines or anything like that. Feel free, give us a call or send us an email, and we will help in any way we possibly can.
And if I could add one more thing, kind of on the insurance side, your insurance carrier and agent, they probably have more information about you than a lot of folks that you are in contact with. I would highly recommend that you provide your carrier with an in case of an emergency number. Who is the person that they can have in your customer profile that in the case of an emergency, that information has already been provided by you to them so that they can also be a resource for you. So that's one of the things that we typically ask, is having that in case of an emergency person as part of your profile. If something were to happen, then we would be able to circle back.
And also, Stephanie, I was looking at your website, and State Farm has a ton of resources as well in terms of emergencies and hazards.
Yes, thank you for that. So yes, we've kind of moved to more of a digital space, so we didn't have a lot of paper-related items, but if you go to statefarm.com and either go to the community section or just type in emergency, it's a significant amount of resources. There are a lot of PDFs that you can pull down and just information on what you should do next in the case of X were to happen. So yes, thanks for reminding me
You
of that.
bet. So we've talked about this a little bit already with our educational providers. What are some essential items every senior should have in an emergency go bag, and include in that documents or information they should take with them? So not just a protein bar, but what else? But all of that, those really hard protein bars Officer Walters was talking to about.
I think we covered most of them, but a really good flashlight. The LED flashlights now don't have a heavy draw, and they're very bright, and they also don't produce a lot of heat, so they are excellent. The battery can last in there for a very long time. And if you have a rechargeable one, you just keep it plugged in, but you have to remember to put it in the bag. Food and water being the most important, something that's going to last a long time. The aluminum can style, they do have like a plastic lining on the inside, and they have some that are designed to last a very long time. So those water cans you can put on the shelf for, I think they said even 15 years, they don't tend to degrade. So at least you have some fresh water for emergencies. We talked about medication, make sure that gets into the bag. Again, our go bag is right next to where our medication is, so we just, we use our daily medication, but then we can just kind of take a hand and dump it right into the go bag and head out the door. A go bag could be anything. It could be a book bag, it could be a satchel or like a duffel bag. It could be pretty much anything. You just want to make sure that it's light enough that you can carry it. We talked about radios, flashlights, emergency contacts, insurance information. When it comes to documenting your home, we said take a video camera on your phone, go around the house and videotape everything, videotape the serial numbers. You can take some pictures, but what if your phone gets destroyed? I took all that information in my house and I Gmailed it to myself. So even if I lost my phone, all I have to do is go to the library computer, get on that computer, type in my Gmail account, and then poof, I have that video and I have all of those pictures saved because I sent the email to myself. And that's really important to have.
Yeah, this is great conversation, and all of the things that Officer Welchers has mentioned, absolutely. Just what's in the go bag that was put together by our partners. Socks, clean, dry socks. If I had a sergeant who told me in the Army, clean, dry socks, that's it. That's all you need to know. So that's a great thing to have in there. A can opener, because otherwise you start going the Neanderthal route, ugh, need to open. Raisins, that's almost wine. So all of these things that they've put in the bag are fantastic. So I would say just tailor it to yourself, but you can't go wrong. Have those things handy.
And I was going to throw out one thing. I'm sure there are other brands, but I only know this brand. It's called Halo, Halo, and it's like a battery brick. And so it can't be more than like 6 inch. I mean, it's probably about this size. It's a brick. It's a battery, and it has the USB cord hookups there. It literally is an opportunity for you just to take with you. You just keep it charged, put it in your go bag, so that way you have some access to some electrical needs or to power up your phone. But that's the only brand I know. I have no connection with them. Just full disclosure, I just love QVC. So, but I have several of them, and I give them as gifts to college students because you just never know if they are in their dorm room and it's dark, and so they can hook up their phone. But it's like a battery brick. So, I mean, even if you just put that in there, you may be able to find that. But it is a sweet deal to be able to have that.
And if I can circle back to putting my old Red Cross hat on, did you know that if you were to have a house fire, obviously first number you call is for emergency services. Second might be to your insurance. but then do call the Red Cross, 1-800-RED Cross. If you lose your prescription medicine, they will come and the Red Cross will pay for you to get that medicine put through the system again. They will pay for that medicine. And depending on the severity of the house fire, they will provide immediate assistance. It really depends on how bad the fire was. A stove fire, maybe not so much, but if your prescriptions were above the stove, they will replace them free.
Great information. Thank you. That's good. A couple more questions here. So what are some home modifications or tools that can make emergency situations safer, especially for those with mobility or health issues? So many home modifications that would be helpful.
From my time with fire EMS, I would say having your shower and or tub kind of slip-proofed. I know most of the newer homes in the retirement communities, they automatically kind of put those types of tubs and showers in, but some of the older homes don't. They have the little, very inexpensive little stickies, and it basically makes kind of a rougher surface on the bottom so you don't slip. They have the little railings that can be put in, things like that. Also around the house, if you feel like you need to get something very high up, I'd rather you call me. I mean, I do it at my mom's house all the time. Slip and falls and people falling is huge. Flooding is probably one of the worst. And then it goes down to slip and falls. We have a lot of accidents that could have been prevented with just a little bit of additions in the home.
Anything else you could think of, panel?
Grab bars, that's.
Grab bars?
Grab bars, and that's something you're already starting to recognize, like if it's, I'm having a little bit more challenge doing this, yes, I can still do it, so I'm still confident in that, but again, from the risk perspective, what do I have in place in the event that I can't? And by the time you make that decision, it's usually too late. So I would say grab bars are huge.
Is that like the little Tyrannosaurus Rex little?
Yeah. Those are, I forgot about that one too. That's good. No, I really meant the tubing ones that are against the wall.
You basically
But I
just
forgot
pull a
about the
trigger and
claw,
you
the
can get
claw.
something off a high shelf
Yeah,
without
yeah.
getting up on a ladder.
Yes. Yep, I forgot about that.
And it could be in the shape of a T-Rex mouth, it sounds like, so. Okay, last question, and this is packs a punch here. So what's one simple, actionable step everyone here can take today to become better prepared for an emergency?
I think we'll all give one.
Okay. I would say, looking out at this crowd assembled before us, be more communal. Join us as volunteers. Join the Red Cross as volunteers, but be communal. All of us together. I look out at years of experience. You've run companies. You've built this country. Now you can use your experience to help us stay a very safe community here in Williamson County. So thank you all for being here today. It means that you care. And I want to thank our hosts as well. This is a great conversation to have, and it's one that we can continue. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mine, I'm cheating. It's going to be kind of two, but the Central Texas Warn, and he's got pamphlets up there for it. That's going to let you know any emergencies and anything going on in the area. And the Smart 911. You can get on that system, sign up, and it goes right into the Georgetown 911 Center database.
Great, thank you.
And I would say, do the video of all your items around the home. Make sure you have that documented, and love the fireproof envelope. Like, go and get that and actually have that already identified with your prescriptions and
Cheap on Amazon.
yeah, cheap on Amazon. Again, we have no kickbacks on that, but Amazon works. So yes, those would be my two.
Great, thank you guys so much. So we're going to have a couple of runners, and we'll time for questions and answer now. So if you have any questions, Josie will get you the microphone.
I'm not sure one of you can confirm whether this is still true, but I know during our first hurricane evacuation on the Gulf Coast, I think it was Rita, we could not get phone calls through with our cell phones, but we were able to text. And as we were caravanning with our daughter in her car and my husband and I each in our cars, we got separated, she ran out of gas, and she and I were texting while we drove at 0 miles per hour. But I don't know if that's still true of the technology, that when you can't get a phone call through, you can usually get a text through. That's good to know.
Yeah, I'd say definitely yes. I mean, we're lucky. I have 2 different cell phones. I have my work cell phone on a different carrier, because sometimes one carrier will be filled up and another carrier won't. Some carriers are better about putting emergency, they call them cows, believe it or not. But it's an extra cell tower that it's on a trailer, and they basically throw it out there, and it can handle more and more people during emergencies. But yes, kind of like the old Nextel, it works a little different.
With everything on cell phones nowadays, you said we should be able to, we should be taking our documents with us. Can we take pictures with our cell phone, or do you need the physical documents for some of these?
I think it depends. I'm going to do a shout out to the estate planner. So we just updated. My friend happens to be an estate planner. She's amazing. And so that is our wills, our power of attorney, medical, everything. That really should be the actual document, and we have those in those fireproof envelopes ready to go. When it comes to just emergency contacts and things like that, we just want the information. If we're medics, or you probably just want the information, because you may not. Everybody tends to rely on cell phones now. Everybody here, we're all probably above 50, so we probably know some people's phone numbers. But I will tell you, below 50, a lot of people, they have no idea, even their mother, husband, aunt, uncle, they have no idea. So having those written down, that's the important part. Doesn't matter if it's a picture. Just remember, if your phone is destroyed, the picture is destroyed unless you backed it up on Gmail, and then you'd still have to get to a computer to get to it. So handwritten on paper is fine.
Let's talk about tornadoes for a minute, because that's what scares me. Is there like a system in place where, let's pretend we had a tornado, and that we can go to like a shelter and take our animals with us, so we don't, until we can actually go somewhere where our friends or our family is? What do we do immediately?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that Williamson County will do is let you know pre, then when it's during, and you and I talked about the taco. Yes. So tornado watch is that you have all the things to assemble the taco, and the warning is an assembled taco. Guess where I'm going after this? Anyway, so we will let you know pre, then during, and then after. There will be announcements put out that either the Georgetown Rec Center is open to receive people who are been displaced by the tornado, or, for instance, the Expo Center, Williamson County Expo Center in Taylor, that is one that we use for not just people but animals, large and small. So there will be a number of shelter areas open for you to go to. If it's just the tornado affected electricity, power, and your power's out, and you don't want to hunker down at home, the home is safe, but it's just without power, there will be places for respite. For instance, storms like this usually happen in the summertime, so without power, it's going to get hot. So you can go to the recreation center where at least it'll be cool. You'll be able to have meals. The Red Cross will be there with meals and water. So But we've got all of that, and we plan and exercise this all the time.
And there's a coverage on your homeowner's policy called loss of use. And in the event that you are displaced, that's one of the items that will extend to you financially. So if you have to go to an Airbnb, or you have to leave the town and actually find somewhere else to live while things are trying to come to some kind of reconciliation, your policy would be opened to be able to use those, to be reimbursed for those funds. So that's called loss of use on your homeowner's policy.
For the immediacy, if the tornado siren is going off, there's a watch, they're saying, hey, a tornado has hit in the Berry Creek area, whatever it is, you don't have time to get in your car, go to a shelter. That's the worst place to be. You get inside your home. If there's a central room, something that's has no windows, it doesn't have a exterior wall attached to that room. We planned this with my mom and my house. There's a bathroom that does not share any walls with the outside. It has no windows, no nothing. It has all those pipes in the walls, so it's probably the safest room. We have an extra to-go bag with a radio and certain things like that. And in that room, you can throw a mattress in there, something heavy. If there's a heavy desk somewhere, you can get underneath that desk. That's really if you don't have a room like that. But we have a small twin mattress that we keep just for that reason. And we go to that central room, we put the mattress on top. My wife has pictures of the last one that touched down near Berry Creek, and that's where I live. And there's my wife with the dog underneath the little mattress, as I was stupidly out on my PA system going around different areas because not everybody can hear the sirens. But we do have about 30 or 40 now around Georgetown, and you'll hear them tested every Saturday at 11 o'clock. Sometimes we do a chirp test, so you don't hear it very well. But I think it's the first or second Saturday, we do a full test, and you'll hear it go off. At 11 a.m., yes. And we do not set it off at 11 a.m. on Saturday if there's a really bad storm in the area, because obvious reasons.
I have a quick question. So we have a high population of seniors in Georgetown, right? And so there's a high population of seniors that live with memory loss, such as dementia, Alzheimer's, which is a form of dementia. Is there a specific place for families or caregivers that have a loved one living with this disease that they can go to? Because most people with memory loss, it creates more anxiety, a whole new environment. It's just a whole different type of care. Is there a specific place for these families? If not, we should talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the respite centers, in an emergency, we open up those shelters. Those shelters are able to handle pretty much almost anything, whether it's somebody is, Alzheimer's or dementia. And I know all of our officers and firefighters, paramedics are all trained for that. But I don't know if there's a specific place just for that particular disease or anything like that. But I mean, the centers are able to handle that.
And I know from the Red Cross perspective, when we teach sheltering, shelters, everyone is welcome. So even medically fragile, there's medical beds that are at the shelters, as well as sometimes they can get CPAP machines in case somebody didn't bring their CPAP with them. So there is a way. And I know that the Georgetown Recreation Center is one of the Red Cross shelters. So I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you.
My question is about the NOAA radio. We have one, but when it goes off, it's San Antonio or it's somewhere far away, and it keeps going off, and it's like, okay, how do we gear it to Central Texas and not be blown out at 3 o'clock in the morning because San Antonio's got a problem.
Let me see you after.
Yeah.
Well, so when you sign up for the alerts, you can give it a geographic area. I know that like Amber Alerts are part of the iPause system, which we just use iPause. I don't know what it stands for, I'm sorry. But it's one of those systems that alerts you, just like a Silver Alert or, so I know that I get Amber Alerts for all over the state of Texas. But I know that for different weather alerts, you can set it specifically for the number of miles from a bullseye point. So,
And some of the radios just depend on, it's the manufacturer. Like every TV might have a different button for different things. It may be something specific to that type of radio.
This goes back to the tornado questions and your answers and so forth. I guess my question is whether or not the police department and other entities around know where there are basements in Georgetown, most of which are in Old Town, many of which are at churches, but our area of the country does not normally have basements. There's one across the street at First Methodist. There's one at Southwestern. There's one at First Presbyterian. Those are the ones I happen to know about. And there's one at the courthouse, the old courthouse.
Yes. Again, by the time it's something where you feel like you need to evacuate, it's already too late. You shelter in place in your home. They are fairly safe if you go to that interior room and cover yourself, even if it's a whole bunch of blankets, just something. If you're in a horrible structure, it's a studio apartment or something and it's really old and it wasn't built maybe very well. Yes, everything is going to be on to the east of the interstate, because to the west of the interstate, it's all karst. It's all limestone. There are no basements. It would cost a fortune just to try to dig through that rock. But we are aware of places that were considered long ago civil defense. And we still have that list. It's become more FEMA and CERT than civil defense now, but we are aware of most of those locations. And if we started filling up our normal respite center, we would start asking, non-government agencies, can you help us out? And even here, this would be fairly safe, and this is a place that we, possibly could bring people, not necessarily as a shelter, but a afterward respite shelter.
I want to ask or make a statement and let you all respond too. I know we talked a lot about for people who are living alone to have the importance of having plans and contacts with people. I know we have a lot of people in the room who are in this situation where they're a couple, both living there. One is definitely the caregiver, and the other person, variety, mobility, cognitive, one person is thinking for two. And if we can just emphasize the importance, that one sheet we have in the packet, we used to both be able to walk out to the car, but now that's not the way I just know it's like the elephant in the room and we don't want to talk about that. Or the really sad situation, I think what happened recently with Gene Hackman has been a wake-up call for many people. What's the emergency plan? If I'm the caregiver for my husband and something happens to me, and so any words of wisdom, encouragement that you can share for us on that topic?
For immediate problems, we do have a crisis intervention team. That's something I might be transferring to. I just put my package in, so we'll see. But I'm a mental health officer, and we tend to go out and talk to people and figure some things out. That's more of kind of like a paramedic to an injury. For more long-term, we do suggest that, especially if both, like a couple they're both having some problems. Mobility was the steer. Letting us kind of have an idea, and health services have an idea that things are going on. Even adult protective services, sometimes they're more towards getting them into a better situation. But any time that we've seen a couple stay together and they both have major issues and they're in a house, we do see problems. And I can't say, hey, you have to move into a facility or something like that. A lot of people are sometimes they don't want to, but those facilities are there to be able to take care of you. They have everybody's name, they have everybody's phone numbers, they have all the emergency contacts, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. So not to plug a particular place, but it's Georgetown. There are a lot of facilities, senior living to assisted living, all the way up to memory care and above.
You were talking about like the Gene Hackman situation. There are apps that check on you daily. I think one of them is called Snuggie or Snuggle app or something. Anyway, if you look online for apps that check on you daily, so the app sends you something, you respond to it every day. If you don't respond to it, it contacts your emergency contact, whoever you put down, like your family member or whatever you put on it. I'm not sure, I don't think they're for free necessarily, but you could shop them around, but they daily check on you. They check on you daily, and the day you don't respond, it sends out a message to whoever you put down for emergency contact. That's just one option.
Thanks for sharing.
That's awesome.
Talking about water leaks in the home, I suggest everyone knows where your main water cutoff is for your house and how to use it, and have the right tool to cut your water off. I mean, a neighbor could show you how to do it if you don't know how to research that, or you could spend a few dollars just to have your plumber come out and show you where to cut that water off. If, there's a freeze and you have a bad leak, the washing machine could blow a hose off, or the yard man could knock the faucet off the outside of the wall, and you've got a big leak, then you know you have the right tool and you know how to cut the main water off to your home.
Good point.
And we're definitely there. I mean, if you have that and you can't shut it off, call the city. We will get it between fire, police, and our water. We will get somebody out there to do it. But that was great. I just bought my mom one of those very large water turnoff, and it's like a jackhammer. It's this tall, and it has a huge bar across the top. So even if she's not strong enough, that bar, she can definitely get it turned off.
I don't think I need a mic.
Yeah, so we can pick it up on the video.
Okay, I think the thing to remember about the water main, turning out the water main, is that you have to have that tool that you just described. You can't reach down there with your hand and turn it, because if you did, then people go in the middle of the night and be shutting people's waters off just for fun. And so there's a reason why it's difficult to turn off and on. So if you feel like if you don't have one of those tools, you need to go to a hardware store and get one, even if it's just a short-handled one. But that's important to have,
And plumbers can actually put one in your garage. So that's another tip, that you may not even have to go out to the main. You can call a plumber and they can actually have one installed in the garage, and it's literally just a handle that either goes left and right or up and down, but that'll turn off the water without you having to worry about going out to the streets.
Any final question? All right. Thank you, and thank our panel. Now a drum roll, please, for our drawings.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, let's go and do the announcements before we get sidetracked. I forgot to call attention in your packet to a couple of, one thing in particular, our shredding event. You know, you're getting ready to do your taxes next week. Well, some of you plan ahead, some of us don't. But usually we have a lot of papers that we can get rid of now, or 7 years, whatever, so we dumped that last one and others. But Seniors Living Smarter offers a shredding event. It will be Saturday, May 3rd at the Keller Williams parking lot. And we do this as a client appreciation, an appreciation to you all who participate in our seminars. We don't publicize this to the world, so you don't have to stand and drive, sit in your car in line forever. But it's a great time. We'll be there, we'll greet people, and you don't have to get out. It's shredded right on the premises. If you want to get out and watch it be shredded, you can. But we look forward to that. And this Saturday is the Georgetown Spring Cleaning Event. I just hate to see what that line is going to be like. But some people did ask me, if you live outside the city limits, can you participate? I confirmed with the city you can. So if, for those of us in the ETJ area, whatever, we can, you're supposed to bring a donation for some cause. You can go, we send out an announcement about it, and it's on the city website. So I wanted to call attention to that. So I want to thank you for being here, and we have there's a little kind of grayish box you can put your name tags in, and there's a little wicker basket to put your feedback forms in. So I look forward to you leaving those pieces with us. Take this opportunity to visit with our panelists and our educational partners, and we hope to see you May 8th, and it will be a seminar about real estate, market update, and essential topics.
Essential tips for selling your home. Downsizing.
Okay, we're going to get you all set up for that on selling your home. All right, thank you very much, and have a very special Easter if you observe Easter, and see you in May.
Have a wonderful day.